This is a major warning for Bitcoin investors. We've just had crude oil here rocketing to the upside. Two major catalysts to be aware of which are rocketing the price of oil, and this could have huge consequences for Bitcoin, which already here today is dumping to the downside, taking altcoins with it. What does it mean for the Bitcoin price? What are the key levels? We're going to do some emergency TA so you guys are informed. If you appreciate this type of content, smash up the likes. Don't forget to subscribe. As always, check out the links in the description to Bybit or BitGet if you fancy doing some trading. Now, speaking of trading, if you guys actively want to trade and you want to join our Telegram, that's free, ijaz.uk/TG. We also have a VIP area where you can get access to the exact trades I'm taking and the setups I use. So definitely check that out. Links in the description. Now, we need to start off with this, guys. OPEC hikes long-term oil demand outlook in stark contrast to other predictions. This is leading WTI crude, which is one of the main measurements of crude here, up 4% here on the day, skyrocketing back up towards that $90 per barrel level. And this is based on the fact that they're expecting more demand, right? The oil producer said the crude sector would require a whopping $14 trillion with a T, guys, investment if it is to meet this upswing, even amid a rapid expansion of renewable energy technologies. OPEC's long-term forecast for global oil demand diverges from that of the International Energy Agency. So this is interesting, guys. We're getting this outlook that, look, we're not going to be able to meet the demand. And if we don't meet the demand, what does that mean for the price of oil? It goes up. Now, I'm going to connect the dots here for why this is a problem for Bitcoin, but you've got to stay with me. Add on to that what we know is going on in the Middle East right now, which is really, really sad news what's going on there. But this is leading the risk of oil shortages rising. Anytime you get a conflict, guys, you get these kind of events happening. We saw it Russia, Ukraine. It leads to a surge in the oil prices. Now, the problem we have right now from an investment point of view is this market is all focused around bringing inflation down. And if we cannot bring inflation down, then of course, market is going to go risk off. And that is exactly what we're seeing here. I posted a video yesterday stating that this conflict is going to be a big problem for Bitcoin and will dump Bitcoin. And a bunch of weirdos wanted to post in the comments, oh no, you're just posting this for your own gain. There was no gain. This is an investment video. It's a crypto video. And as you saw, when the markets start to open up today, we kicked off with the European markets here. You can see it did shudder Bitcoin here to the downside. Let me show you what's going on here on Bitcoin chart. You can see a horrible 4-hourly candlestick here starting at 9 a.m. my time, which is when the FTSE would have opened. So European markets would have opened here. You can see the DAX is down 0.84%. You see the CAC is down 0.61%. FTSE here in London trying to hold up flat, but it's not looking good for the US markets, right? If you look at the pre-market, they're all down quite heavily, and we await to see the US open to see if that can send Bitcoin down on another leg to the downside. Remember, if oil prices are going up, that's going to contribute to headline inflation, and that's going to rear its head again and cause problems in terms of what the market has been pricing in, that we may not see another rate hike at the next meeting in November. So all of these things will have to go into Jerome Powell's thinking. Now remember, so we've got a really important week here on the macroeconomic front. You've got the IMF meeting here over the next handful of days. That's going to be really, really important and have an effect on the market. You've got the ECB president speaking tomorrow as well. Don't forget PPI inflation coming out on Wednesday, followed by Thursday, the CPI reading. So it's a bumper week here in terms of course, what's going on in the Middle East. That's going to have an effect on oil prices. We just heard what OPEC had to say as well. Ladder on top of that, the fact that the IMF are meeting, you've got the ECB president speaking, plus PPI inflation, plus CPI inflation. So it's all kicking off this week. Expect it to be a very volatile week. So let's now jump into the charts with that knowledge and try to see where are our key levels. First and foremost, straight away, you should have seen that today at 9 a.m. we lost our 4-hourly EMA ribbon, right? That's lost. We confirmed the loss with another 4-hourly candle opening here to the downside. And this makes you get ready for a wider pullbacks in the market. So if you jump onto the daily chart, this is where we're going to start to see where can support come in. You can see here, of course, the EMA ribbon really starts to come into play at 27.2. You guys know, I mean, calling for that level as a touch and see if we can bounce there before posting a higher high. You can see we're curling over, right? This was always the risk here with Bitcoin. These two candlesticks here, these days here on Saturday and Sunday, which of course this was a weekend, but it showed a lot of weakness. We weren't able to push on here. And of course, the conflict on the weekend, it was the catalyst in the end, which is pushing Bitcoin here down almost 2% on the day. So the question now is going to be, is this going to be long lasting enough for Bitcoin to just lose its daily EMA ribbon? Because that could be painful, right? Daily EMA ribbon takes you all the way down to 27 flat. If we lose 27k, then we start losing our daily EMA ribbon, which will be really, really sad and kind of quite bad timing, really. I mean, just obviously not from a humanity point of view, just from an investment point of view here. Bitcoin was trying to, well, it did reclaim its daily EMA ribbon and held above it quite nicely, and it was looking to push on. But now, given, the bigger issues at hand here in the war, this now means that this is coming to the downside, and we could potentially lose this daily EMA ribbon. To avoid that, we need to bounce, right? We need to bounce from the EMA ribbon, even if it wants to come into the EMA ribbon somewhat, but it needs to bounce and push higher onwards from there. Going to be difficult, given what I just shared with OPEC, given what I just shared in terms of a risk-off mindset. And you can see that playing through here with the dollar index, right? Dollar index was falling here over the last 3 days, and then today you're seeing green come back in the market on the dollar index. This is going to look to bounce here off of its EMA ribbon. It's at that purple support, which is very important support. We spoke about this, guys. This is not a surprise to us what's going on here with the dollar index. It was in this channel, broke out of this channel, reached the first pivot point, right? This is the first pivot point. It broke through. Now it comes back to retest that first pivot point. At the same time, it retests its EMA ribbon, and it's going to want to look to head higher. Okay, so this is looking really bullish on the dollar index, which is quite bearish setup here for Bitcoin. So please be very, very careful here on anything in terms of to do with Bitcoin. We're at a very difficult moment here, and I'm personally holding bias to the downside slightly here. It's going to be very difficult for Bitcoin to sustain any momentum to the upside, given what's going on in the landscape and given how the dollar index and oil prices are moving as well. At the same time, we are literally seeing altcoins just get purely obliterated, red across the market, as you could expect, with many altcoins here getting punished to the downside wherever you look. I mean, if you look at total here, which is the total money in crypto, it's just dropped down 2% today. In other words, we have just seen $21 billion just flow out of crypto here in the last handful of hours. You're seeing altcoins move to the downside. Ethereum down almost 3% here. Big red candlestick to the downside. Phantom down 4.9%, getting absolutely decimated now, and now heading down to lows lower than we saw on September the 11th and heading towards some of the lows which we saw back in August. So Phantom going for a testing period here to the downside and definitely underperforming Bitcoin. Solana also down 4.3%, but just luckily for Solana, it's above its EMA ribbon, right? It's holding some strength, and hopefully Solana will be looking to bounce from its EMA ribbon. If you look at Cardano, losing its daily EMA ribbon does not look good for all coins across the board. Matic losing its daily EMA ribbon. There's no safe project to be in right now. It's just bloodbath pain at the depths of a bear market, another geopolitical issue to add to the tensions globally, and you can feel that. You can feel that in the economy, you can feel that in the market, the apprehension, the nervousness that seeps through into investors' appetite for risk on assets. And pretty much the last asset you really want to be in right now are those risky altcoins, right? Because nobody in this kind of environment here in the world where inflation is uncertain, you don't know if the Fed are going to pause or hike, you don't know what's going on in terms of geopolitical issues and oil prices. Last thing you want to be doing is sat in some low cap gems, which is why I always remind people you've got to be eating your veg. And this reminds you here, if you look at this daily chart here, particularly since the 1st of October, we've seen a big climb in Bitcoin dominance. And this is just a reminder that people do flock to Bitcoin relatively in safety, right? All those people who tend to be more degens tend to remind themselves to top up some Bitcoin and even some Ethereum as well in tough times. And people who barely have any Bitcoin generally don't want to hold Bitcoin in tough times. They go back to their safe stuff like government bonds and commodities, right? So that tends to be the rotation of what we see. Now, it's also important for us to kind of understand that if we do lose the daily EMA ribbon, what support do we have thereafter? And this is where we start to understand that this weekly EMA ribbon is what we're trying to stay above. And right now, it's a worrying week, right? It's a worrying week because if it continues this way to the downside and we have a horrible week, Bitcoin is close to losing its weekly EMA ribbon. We're only talking about 26.8. A weekly close below 26.8, which is about $600 from where we're at right now here on Bitcoin, by the end of this week would mean we lose our weekly EMA ribbon. And again, we worked so hard to get above it, stay above it last week, and now already we're opening here, testing our weekly EMA ribbon. So very difficult time here to be vested in Bitcoin. But that's when I always remind myself, these are the moments I want to be buying. When Russia-Ukraine happened, in the peak of the fear, I'm nibbling. When FTX is collapsing, I'm nibbling. When the things really seem really scary, because remember, the media's job is to do that, that is when we want to be allocating. That's personally when I train myself to hold my conviction, because what's happened over the weekend, has that changed anything in terms of Bitcoin? Has that changed the fact that the fiat system is broken and money is broken and the Bitcoin is immutable and you cannot censor Bitcoin and everybody can get access to Bitcoin? It's the most secure money network. Has it changed the hash rate? No, it hasn't, right? It's not changed the fundamentals of Bitcoin and why we have conviction to invest in this asset class. All it changes is the fact that there are fluctuations in the economic cycle. But if you have a long-term enough horizon, you'll look at this and go, hang on, nothing over the weekend here changed on Bitcoin. And for that reason, I'm looking for positions to allocate. Now, of course, 27.4, not a great price for me to be allocating. I want to see, does this fall more, right? Do we lose that weekly EMA ribbon? Do we head below 26,000 again? Because when I look at this, given everything that's going on, I'm like, Bitcoin's doing really well. The fact that here on Bitcoin, we're sitting at 27.4, right? And having last week been as high here as 28.6, it's pretty damn good. I mean, even if you look at the Fear and Greed Index, markets don't look too shaken from a crypto perspective. I mean, the degens are sat firmly. 50% of the market here are now sat in neutral, right? I mean, it's 50-50, sorry, on the Fear and Greed Index. So we've seen crazy amounts of fear before in this market, and this market has a habit of absorbing it. So for me, when there's pain in the market, when there's blood in the streets, that's personally when I want to be nibbling. As always, guys, if you want to be in our Telegram group, ijaz.uk/TG, make sure you join our members area, and you'll get access to some of the trades I'm taking, setups, the TA I do, the stop losses, how I risk managed. It's all in there, ijaz.uk/TG. Don't forget to go watch this video here, and I'll see you in the next one.